Hey guys, so I'm here today with Alicia MacArthur. She's a quite quite an inspirational figure that some of you may not have heard of yet, but I'm sure you will in weeks and months to come. So she had quite an interesting backstory. Rather than go over it myself, I'm just gonna ask her broadly. So how have you come to terms with the diet you're on now? What is it that has changed over time, and who are you basically?
Well, as you said, my name is Alicia. I'm 42 years old and I'm from Australia. I am a cosplayer, a bodybuilder, a recovering alcoholic, a former carb and sugar addict, and now a carnivore. And basically, what brought me to carnivore was my quest to get off opiates and CBD oil for a chronic medical condition that I have called adenomyosis, which I know a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's basically the ugly sister of endometriosis, where endo grows outside the uterus. Mine has broken through into my uterine wall. Basically, what that causes me is intense pain, very heavy bleeding, extreme bloating, and it's really impacted on my quality of life, so much so that I actually sought a hysterectomy. Being in chronic pain is just very, very draining, and I thought that that perhaps was my only option. But I actually went down a bit of a rabbit hole and decided to take control of my health myself rather than put all my trust in doctors, because to be perfectly honest, the advice and feedback I was getting was being recommended procedures that would actually make my pain worse. I felt really disengaged. I didn't feel heard. So, like we all do, we jump on the internet, we go down those rabbit holes, and I started looking at nutritional protocols to help myself because I couldn't see a future where A, I was in chronic pain, and B, I was spending the rest of my life on medication that would probably end up really damaging my body. And if anyone knows anything about CBD oil, particularly in this country, it is revoltingly expensive. It's about $500, maybe, if you're lucky, for 2 months worth of medication. So who can afford that, right? So I first looked at keto, and I, to be fair, I did get some results at first because you're removing a lot of inflammatory ingredients from the diet. And as I went along, I realized though I was still incredibly hungry. My hunger was just relentless. And all I was thinking about was sugar and carbs. I was actually going over my main meals. All I wanted to do was skip ahead to the keto desserts, which full of artificial sweetness for me, but my brain still went sugar. And when I really realized this was a problem for me, and being an addict, I recognize addict behavior very well. I was sitting at a bus stop once with a block of keto chocolate, and I opened it and I put the first piece in my mouth, and then the second, and then a row, and then another row. And I realized I'd looked at the packet, there was one row left. And I realized that I'd been eating that chocolate like I'd drank alcohol in the past. It was that addictive brain dopamine hit. I literally could not stop myself. And that's when I realized I had a problem. And perhaps I needed something a little more prescriptive for my needs to address the sugar and carb addiction, but to also really get this pain and inflammation down. So again, you go and you research, and carnivore kept coming up. And I was like, carnivore, what's this? Oh, okay. So you only eat meat. And I was like, okay. I've gone this far with keto. I've really stripped things back. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for 7 days. I'm going to see what happens. Within 7 days, I had stopped taking all my pain medication. And I was like, surely not. This must be a glitch in the matrix. It cannot be that strong, that powerful, and that amazing. I was like, okay, well, that was a good week. I'll go back to keto. Went back to keto. All my problems kicked up again. The carb addiction, the sugar chasing, and my pain got really bad. So I finally went, enough is enough. I'm going to do it again for another 7 days. If I get out of pain again, this is it for me. And the exact same thing happened. Within 7 days, all medication stopped. So that pretty much brings us up to date with where I am now. I've been a carnivore. This will be entering my 4th month. And the results I've seen so far have been amazing in terms of not only getting pain relief, but I've seen improvements in my autoimmune psoriasis that's reduced by 50%. I've noticed that my anxiety and stress levels are way, way down. I'm sleeping so much better. All through the night, I used to wake up multiple times. I'm no longer feeling cold. I used to feel incredibly cold all the time. It's freezing, wrapped in blankets, near a heater on a sunny day. And my hunger and satiety is finally starting to even out. There's a lot of hormonal healing that really needs to happen for me, and that's going to take some time, and particularly from the damage that I would have done from about 15 years of alcohol abuse. But I'm loving the journey so far, and I can't wait for it to continue.
Sure, yeah. It's amazing when you strip down the diet that you're doing before and just get to bare basics of human nutrition, human biology. It's you need protein and fat. When people are having these keto snacks, they're adding in so much other junk and they don't realize it. And that's probably how you come across to the bus stop where you're eating like the blocks and blocks of these keto sort of treats and things. I get
Yeah,
I get how it can be more approachable to people because you can still eat vegetables and stuff like that, but you manage to get your head around the idea that you don't need all this other stuff, the fillers. They're
yeah,
ultimately, in a lot of cases for people, they're going to prolong the amount of time it's going to take for you to actually reduce your addictive behaviors. I've conducted two interviews recently with Pim Johnson and Dr. Sarah Zaldivar, and they've said the same thing. Like the closer they can get to a carnivore diet where they're eating meat and fat, essentially, the less their addictive behaviors are prevalent. It's amazing. Really, you don't think it. You think you need all these extra foods, but like
yeah.
you said, just get back to the bare basics and it sorts itself out. So what at the moment are you eating during a day? Like you eating one meal, two meals, three meals? You spreading them?
Um, it really changes from day to day. Uh, when I started keto, I was doing quite a bit of intermittent fasting. I found with carnivore, I can do bits here and there. Basically, I just listen to my body. I stopped using a fasting tracker and all those types of things to give myself a little more freedom. I think because I spent so many years basically ignoring my body, it's really time to listen to it, and it will tell you really clearly what it needs and what it wants. So at the moment, it's usually 2 meals a day for me. Sometimes three. That's usually either a pre or post workout, very small meal if I feel like I need the extra support. But I eat so much fatty ground beef. That's really what my body is all about at the moment. I do eat some Scotch fillet or ribeyes, a lot of butter as well to really, really saturate my hormones. I restricted fat for so long, for so long. And growing up, fat wasn't actually a big part of my diet in my household. It was very salad and protein focused, and even into my bodybuilding as well. My fats were really not that high, even though I was having things like nuts and peanut butter and avocado and olive oil and all those sorts of things. But it's still, for me, as a female that probably really has needed that hormonal support. It just wasn't high enough. So I do have a bit of suet now and then if I feel like I need it. Chicken tends to make me really hungry. I love it, but it's not satiating for me. So that's a sort of every so often type of a thing. I do eat pork, and very, very minimal seasonings. I've pretty much almost cut those out now, and it's just salt and a little bit of white pepper here and there. But yeah, just nice, basic, easy. And I'm happy to eat the same thing day in, day out. I'm a creature of habit. And I love that. I think that's food freedom to me, not really having to think a lot about what I'm going to cook today and meal prep. And, because I spent so long doing that. I'm so happy to have that freedom.
Yeah, I'm guessing the fact you came from a kind of like a fitness background already. With people like that, they have a lot of behaviors which are some people could deem them obsessive. So you might track your food, weigh it, You'll time
Yeah.
your next meal. So I completely get that and understand so well that when you listen to your body, everything just becomes so much easier. You can abstain from these foods, and it's going to be so much less of a chore than what you think it will be. Like you said, some people can just eat meat and maybe some butter here and there, salt and pepper. Really bare basic nutrition, and they can seem to sustain themselves very well. I'm pretty similar to that. I can eat the same thing every day for quite a long period of time. Um,
Yeah.
Beef and eggs is quite a basic staple, and fatty fish for me. My girlfriend Sophie, she's the opposite. She likes to have variety. She'll have a Greek yogurt meal, which is protein powder, with some eggs in one meal with a cheese baby bell. It's like a little cheese bite thing.
I love Baby Bell. We have that here too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she'll have a meal with some meat, and she'll have fish sometimes and seafood. So there is a lot of variety in this sort of diet, and people don't realize that. It just depends how your mindset goes into it. If you're someone like yourself that has had immense health issues and troubles and pain, you
Mm,
will you will just fall into it a lot easier, because you can feel the outcome of it and the gains you make from it in terms of your health so quickly. And when people
absolutely.
notice that, it becomes so much more accessible and sustainable.
Yeah.
um, that's why a lot of people like us, they come into this kind of way of eating, and it just becomes so much easier in general. So you touched on like your addictive behaviors, so I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. So what point did your addictive behaviors start, and when did they finish? And would you say, like, going from your standard diet to keto to carnivore, what differences were between the diets that made the addictive behaviors less of a problem?
So I would say that my issues with alcohol began in my late teens. That's when I discovered alcohol. And incidentally, that's when my weight and health issues began. I started drinking, yeah, probably in my late teens, never thinking that was an issue for me. By the time I was 21, I was incredibly overweight, um, and drinking pretty heavily. And then by the time I got to my late 20s, I was medically obese. I was incredibly ill. Got to the point where I had to quit my job simply because getting out of bed and having a glass of water was painful for me. I was on medication that they give to patients with severe peptic ulcers just to try and get my reflux down. I'm a 5'2" woman, and I had 90 kilos on me easily. So that's a lot of pressure on the body. Um, Eventually, I did get the weight under control, and I dropped that weight. Dropped down to around 55 kilos, and did that just by modifying my diet somewhat, getting a handle on things like sugar, a little bit of carbohydrate, but I still continued to drink during this. By the time I was in my early 30s, I was a barely functioning alcoholic. And what I mean by that was I had the veneer of being able to go to a job, but sometimes I would turn up to work still drunk from the night before. If I wasn't drunk, I was thinking about getting drunk. Or I was the first person at the bottle shop buying 3 bottles of wine to then go and lock herself in a room and just drink by herself, thinking that that was kind of normal, because it was my normal for so many years. And it got to the point where I had no control over my behavior with drinking. It completely owned me. And it came to a head on Christmas Eve of 2014. That's the last time an alcoholic drink passed my lips. I absolutely disgraced myself. I woke up the next day. I couldn't even go and enjoy Christmas with family and friends because I was so hungover and I was so mortified at myself. I hid in my bed for 3 days, and I decided that was it. I couldn't conceivably live my life like that anymore. And if I continued, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. So that was it. I quit by myself, cold turkey. I'm an abstainer personality. I've figured that out about myself. I can't moderate. I have to abstain. And that's exactly what I did. Um, so in 2015, 6 months after quitting drinking, 6 months into sobriety, my weight had started to creep up because I was putting foods into my body that were no good for my body. I thought I was caring for myself, but I really wasn't. Um, my idea of health at that time, I was, the type of person that would go and do a fitness class and then go and eat chocolates after to treat myself. So it's very counterproductive. And all you're doing is keeping that carb and sugar addiction alive. And I've always wanted to be a healthy, fit person. Like I've always looked at fit bodies and muscularity and just thought it was incredible. Like ever since I was a young girl, I remember my mum had Jane Fonda tapes and I discovered them and I was obsessed. I loved everything about it. I loved physical activity. I loved the way it made me feel. I just loved the look of athleticism and the feel. Anyway, so here I was feeling kind of despondent. I had no goal. I had no focus. Drinking had been my entire focus. I had no hobbies, nothing to do. And I walked into a supplement store and I saw a poster of a body transformation competition. And it had this amazing muscular woman on it, smiling and just looking incredible. And I looked at it and I went, I'm going to do that. So I did. I signed up and I told everyone around me that I was going to do it because I really wanted the accountability. And that was the start of my love of weightlifting and bodybuilding. It completely changed my life and my body shape. Years before that, when I was attempting to be fit, healthy person, I just killed myself with cardio, and step aerobics was completely my jam in the 90s. I know we all remember that. Um, and just thought cardio was it, like oodles and oodles of cardio. And I had never seen my body be the way it could be until I picked up weights. And it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. So I continued weightlifting on my own. And about 6 years after that initial transformation competition that I entered, I actually ended up becoming a ambassador and a mentor for that particular very well-known Australian supplement brand, which was completely mind-blowing to me that once I'd been this obese alcoholic that no one would even equate with being a mentor or being somebody that could lead and inspire. So I guess with keto, that really put a spotlight for me on the addiction that I had still. You get rid of alcohol, that's a huge addiction. I really don't think that a lot of people think that you can be carb addicted. And let me tell you, and so many people tell you, you can be carb addicted. Sugar and carbs are unbelievably addictive for the brain. They have the same intoxicating effects that drugs and alcohol have. It's lighting up those pleasure centers, getting that dopamine hit. So I'm actually really grateful for going through the keto route to really highlight that for me, that was an issue and something I needed to address. And I can tell you, I do not have a single sugar or carbohydrate craving at all. And they stopped for me within probably my first 2 weeks of going carnivore the second time and sticking with it. So um, I'm actually really glad that I had that experience. I think had I moved maybe straight from my standard diet to carnivore, I wouldn't have actually had the spotlight sort of shined on that, so I could figure out what may be a potential pitfall for me down the road.
Brilliant. Yeah. Part of the reason I wanted to have you on is to talk a lot about addiction and addictive behaviors in general. So something that's quite close to my heart is we had someone in the family that unfortunately fell down the addiction hole in regards to alcohol. Um, we lost them basically, and it caused a lot of grief and stress for my family. And what it is I wanted to hear I wanted to hear the other side of it. I don't want to have that idea in my mind that people have this and it'll never get better. The fact is, like Alicia said, you can overcome it. It's not going to be this thing which is just so far out of reach from what you can achieve. And she pointed out really well that going through like the keto approach first can really help highlight and iron out a lot of issues that people have with their eating and their behaviors. And I think the thing about the carnivore diet is you are on, in a lot of cases, less than 10 grams of carbohydrates a day. And that'll be from eggs and maybe dairy. It's not going to be a lot. And the thing is, closer people get to zero, the easier it is to omit the carbohydrates. And people think, oh, I'm allowed 30 or 50 a day and on a keto diet, but it's going to make it so much harder for you just to get off it. Like when I say carbohydrates, I don't just mean, potatoes and rice. I mean everything. Sugar in your tea, like the odd 3 or 4 grams here, and here and there. It's the quicker you get off all of that, the easier it'll be. It just takes time. So you mentioned as well about becoming an ambassador in the fitness industry. So kind of how did that come about, and what was what are some of the issues you had with that at that point?
So that came about basically the brand that I initially did that body transformation competition with. I had sort of been part of their community, and they had places for offer, so I applied and they accepted, which was amazing. And I would probably still be working with them, but my nutritional bias doesn't exactly align with the products that they have. Sure, they are low carbohydrate. That's one of their big talking points, but really there's low carbohydrate and there's low carbohydrate. So I think for me, I thought it was best to step away from that, and go my own route. This is such a journey for me, and I really needed to be 100% invested in it. For me, it was an amazing experience, and I got to meet some incredible people and work with some people that have really turned their lives around. And watching them struggle with the same things that I have throughout my life, with different forms of addiction. There's people in there going through mental health issues, divorces, upheaval, and to be a part of their life and their journey. It was a real honor for me. Um, I speak really positively of that experience. I have also, been in part of the industry where I've worked for a company, probably the second largest weight loss company that exists in the world. And you really get to see the dark side of the diet culture and how the greed is just so prevalent and it's at the forefront. And I wish that it wasn't. And I would really love to say that, diet shake companies and protein bar companies and, diet pill companies exist to care about people's health. But I think we all know really what the driver is there. Um, and I can tell you, being now on the outside, when I worked for this company, I'm not going to name them as a consultant. I went in with the best of intentions because I myself at that stage, even though I was still having these alcohol problems in the background, I'd lost the weight. I was feeling great. I was presenting the front that I wanted to for the world. And I went in really wanting to help people, and that's why I was there. So I was so delighted. But what becomes really apparent is that these companies know how desperate people are, and especially for a quick fix and for immediate gratification. And when you pick up the phone to dial one of these weight loss centers, you are speaking to someone that is trained in neuro-linguistic programming techniques to identify the level of desperation and how best they can get you in your emotionally heightened state into one of the centers within 24 hours when they know that you're vulnerable, to sign you up to a program and to take your money. And what you are given in exchange for your money is processed carbohydrates, seed oil at an energy level that isn't even prescribed for your needs. So it's really quite insidious. And if these programs actually worked, they wouldn't have repeat customers. But they do, and they have lifelong memberships to keep you on the hook and to keep you in the loop and to keep you consuming, because, you know, a customer cured is a customer lost. Why would they want that? So having seen both sides of the coin, it it's been really eye-opening for me. And it's such a shame that, you know, we're probably always going to live in a world where this is the case, whereas people could really be addressing so many health concerns with an ancestral eating plan. It's, you know, it's so simple. And when you tell people that, they kind of look at you as if you've just been dropped on your head, because surely it must be, you know, I must calorie restrict and I must do oodles of cardio or this or that, or, and it's like, no, if you can get everything you want by simply stripping your diet back and eating a species specific diet.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I come from a background basically in the nutrition industry as well. So I used to manage one of the best health food stores in the country. And I kind of knew it at the time, but the way there is it's quite a good company to work for. I'm not going to slate them for that. But the foods they're promoting, I cannot agree with at my
Mm.
ethical mind. It wouldn't make sense. It didn't make sense to stay there basically. People would come in all the time and you're sort of offering them these supplements and foods and different things, and you know that's not going to help them. They're missing so many things from their diet as it is, and it did get quite demoralizing to have to do that to earn money.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I have the same sort of experience as you, and that's another reason why I feel I can relate to your sort of story. And as well, so you lost a lot of weight at some point. So I wanted to ask about that. So at what point did you have that switch to think, right, I need to abstain and change my diet up and lose the weight?
Um, Unfortunately for me, the catalyst at one stage was being abused on the street by someone out of a car that called me an incredibly derogatory name out the window that was linked to my appearance.
Mm.
And for some reason that really flicked a switch for me. And I was like, I just can't. So I started doing the things that we usually do. You know, you cut down on what you think are the bad foods, you move a bit more, things like that. And that did start shifting the weight. Again, like I said, I was still drinking in the background. And I think had I given that up, you know, that would have played a large role in in seeing my overall health, you know, go completely the other way. Um, but you know, I can 100% say that there was definitely binge restriction behavior really starting to happen for me at the beginning of my dieting, and that did continue for many, many years. You know, it's the things that you try when you're miserable and desperate. You know, I think I've tried every pill, potion, diuretic, laxative, everything that you can possibly put in your mouth. Probably the worst one I ever tried was a drug called Xenical. I think it goes under the generic name of Orlistat.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've probably heard how vile that is.
I
That
think I've used that
basically,
before, probably. You get the
it,
runs.
oh yeah, yeah. And you know, if you're out and about and it happens to you, oh, yeah, I feel for you. But you know, you take those things because, you know, when you're looking for an answer, you're looking for a cure, you know, you're prepared to do anything. And it's now come out that drug actually causes changes in the gut lining and produced precancerous lesions in the stomachs of rats during the testing phase, which of course the company downplayed. But it's perfectly fine to put this on the shelf under the label of health. It's
Mm.
you know so I really do understand, and I've seen that many a time in working as an ambassador with the supplement brand I mentioned before, and even with the horrible weight loss company who will not be named. But it's that unhappiness, and really wanting to fix your life, but perhaps because of all the disinformation that's out there, and everything that we're fed, it can be really hard to make the right decision that's not only right for your outer health, but your mental health, and your inner health, and your health that's going to be 20 years from now.
Mm.
It's We need to stop thinking about the here and now, and think about the impacts of what we put in our body, and where that's going to lead us in years to come.
Yeah, so I've been down the same path myself with these sort of weight loss supplements and things, and you don't you think at the time you're going to lose X amount of weight by doing it, but the reality is, if it was that effective, everyone would be on it. I mean,
That's it.
you'd struggle
If
to
it did,
find a testimony.
yeah.
Yeah, you struggle to find a testimony nowadays that doesn't say how the carnivore diet helps them. Um, it's it's just getting so frustrating. I mean, I'm still getting people approach me after all these videos I've been interviewed, and been interviewing other people, and they're saying, "God, this diet of yours, it's not good." Like sort of making
Mm-hmm.
jokes about it, and it's frustrating because these people have never actually tried the diet, and they
Yeah.
think, I don't need to try it." And I've said in probably two or three other interviews before, we all have an expiry date. It doesn't matter if we're fine now. We can sort of maintain the diet for X period of time, but ultimately, what it comes down to is over time, your body will age, and it'll age
Yeah.
more rapidly as you get older. Your body just can't tolerate the food you're not meant to be eating. And yeah, admittedly, I'll have some birthday cake or something, or Christmas, I'll have some roast potatoes, and as and when I'll have a meal out of family, and that's not going to be too damaging, I guess. But some people have to abstain more. It can bring back addictive behaviors, and you don't want to fall back into the hole where you're having to spend money on these diet pills that ultimately don't do a lot, they're damaging to the body. And the one that Elise just rightly mentioned, it stops the epithelial cell lining and
Mm.
gut from functioning properly, because you do need short chain fatty acids from the fat you're eating, appropriate fat that
Absolutely.
is, to heal the gut. There's so much more around it that people don't see, and it's getting quite frustrating at this point after so many hours of videos, and people still don't get it. I'm still getting questions about it. So the thing as well is, you mentioned earlier about bodybuilding and developing your
Yeah.
muscles and feeling strong, looking good, sort of thing. So how did you how did you start that, and what was it that, I mean, it's very hard to sort of ask what was it that made you want to be muscly, but I might rephrase that because a lot of people won't resonate with that. What was it about building muscle that appealed to you, apart from the dopamine response to training?
Look, if you ask what made me want to become muscly, I can answer that really easily. It was actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. Uh, Not that I wanted to look like Arnold, but I've always found him so inspiring on every level. I guess for me, when I started lifting weights and I started to see the change in my body, it almost became protective for me. It was like my armor, you know. I felt strong inside. I looked strong outside, because I'd never felt like a really strong person and a really confident person. It really gave me that. And it wasn't, of course, the aesthetic look will give you that for sure. But it was knowing that I could challenge myself, and that I was my own sculptor, really, of my own body and my own health. And, you know, with weightlifting and bodybuilding, the goalposts, you're constantly shifting that. It's all about, chasing that progressive overload and training to failure and constantly, improving what you can do and, looking at your tempos, looking at your technique. And that's just kept me completely hooked. And, it, I often look at weightlifting, that's my time. That's my meditation. That's
Mm.
my little bit of mental health heaven. And I actually don't feel right if I don't train. It's just, for me, I come out of a session and, to bodybuild, you need to love pain to a certain degree because, let's face it, it's part of the process. But there is something so amazing when you come out of a session, you've really given it your all, you've pushed as hard as you can, and it's that release, and that's the reward for me. And that has just continued since 2015. And I think I'll probably be in the nursing home with little dumbbells because I won't be able to stop. I love it that much.
Yeah, I'm just the same. It's there's not many people I meet that are like that. As in, I meet people that go to the gym, but they never ever describe the fact that I must go to the gym. I feel really good doing it. And if you're someone like yourself, I'm an abstainer. I have to sort of get rid of everything, but
Yeah.
something will have to take its place. I'm not
Yes.
someone that can just avoid everything and not do anything. I have to do something. So exercise is ideal for that. It's not a negative behavior. And I find it amazing when people try to reframe it as that. They'll say to me, what will happen when you can't train? Surely going to the gym, all this isn't good for you. You got a spine
Yeah,
disease, shouldn't be going to the gym. What would happen to my mental health? How would it crumble if I didn't have that outlet?
mm,
And people don't seem to get that. And I could say the same thing over and over again. It's just so frustrating. You get this point across. You're doing something to benefit you. You're doing it for
that's it.
your own health benefit, your own good outcomes. Like my slogan is aligning physique goals with positive health outcomes. And you have to have a holistic approach. And Alicia's doing just that with the way she, gets a diet sorted, a training sorted. She's got hobbies like the comic kind of stuff. The what's it called?
Oh, cosplay.
Cosplay stuff. Yeah.
And you know
Um,
what? Bodybuilding actually is part of that. There's characters that I have to
mm,
play that need to look physically fit and muscular. And that also gives me, another goal to strive for. And I think it's really important to have something that is just yours and it makes you feel like there's purpose and drive. And that's what weightlifting is for me.
completely. Yeah. It's very enjoyable for those that watch this video and they think doesn't appeal to me. It's not me really. I don't need to do it. There's direct correlations with strength and longevity. I'm not saying you have to be a bodybuilder like Alicia or myself, but just do something in the gym. Just do anything. Just go to the gym, do all the machines in there, and just do one set of each or anything just to get started and see how you get on and learn to enjoy it and find mentors or someone that can coach you and guide you in the right direction. I want to ask
Absolutely.
about that as well. So, where obviously Arnold was your inspiration, he's achieved a lot for his lifetime. So, is there someone that taught you along the way? Do you have a coach or a guide?
Look, I was pretty solitary. I've had sort of some coaching from some bodybuilders here and there. I really got to the point where I did want to be competitive. However, my adenomyosis just would really not allow me to do that, particularly because I had iron deficiency anemia, really unpredictable bleeds. I could go to bed flat as a tack, have some abs poking out, wake up the next day and look like I was about 6 months pregnant from the bloating. So it became too unpredictable for me to want to get seriously competitive. So I thought about coaches and, going on full preps and all those types of things. But for me, I guess, yeah, I'm a pretty solitary creature, and particularly when it comes to my training, because that's something that's just mine, and that's my time. But never say never. Looking at how my health is now and how it's progressing, I'm still really open to that. But yeah, it's been a lot of my own sort of journey and self-discovery, but there's been some amazing people that I've met along the way that have inspired and taught, and are still huge inspirations in my life that I still speak to on a daily basis, because we have that connection, over the iron and over lifting, and that's how we bond.
Yeah, it's nice to be part of a group. It's almost like a cult in a way, but I try to
But a
look at
really
it
good
in a
one.
positive light. You know, there's not many of us, so we have to connect and cross our ideas. And a lot of the scientific studies out there for training and diet aren't that greatly composed. So ultimately, what we are finding out is I'm learning from people like Alicia and myself, and vice versa. Then, we'll all cross our ideas together, and that's how bro science comes about. But a lot of the time, bro science comes out true. Um,
Yeah,
so how do you train at the moment? So what's your like rough training split in a week or a given set time, and what would a
yeah.
example workout be?
So it's at the moment it's around 4 days. Just with the time that I have, I need to fit in work and training. My split is usually biceps, triceps, back and abs, legs and glute, and shoulders. Delts on a separate day. It really depends how I'm feeling on a day too. Like I won't rigidly lock myself into something. Again, I'm going with how does my body feel? What does my body want? But if I'm feeling that I want to stick to a schedule for that week and be like, this day is that XYZ, I'll do that. One thing I've noticed that I've been able to do on carnivore that I just couldn't do before or wouldn't do before is I can actually train fasted,
Mm,
um, which feels amazing. I remember the days of going to do leg day at the gym with a stomach full of food that I ate an hour and a half ago, and wanting to hurl everywhere because I was like, no, I need that energy and I need that carb and I've got to have it. And it's like, you do not need it. If you've got some fat in the tank that you had from the night before, you can go hell for leather. I've done almost 2 hour training sessions completely fasted and just felt incredible and got an amazing pump.
yeah, completely. I've had the same experience. So the problem people have with low carb athlete strength training kind of thing is that the idea is you're not going to have enough muscle glycogen, but there are
Mm,
studies out there which show quite clearly your muscle glycogen levels are near enough equated to that of someone who is on a higher carb diet. Your
yeah.
body has processes and biochemical adaptations to create more glycogen that are outside of just eating carbs. The thing is, as well, people try the diet for a week or two and think my strength's gone down. I'm not as pumped. It's not working. I'm getting off it. I'd say it's just to people give it a bit longer. Myself, I was someone that had to give probably about 3 to 4 weeks and increase my fat intake a lot more to be able to achieve the same that I would if I was fueled by carbs. Um,
Mm.
you've got to look at it that way. So you're making a large shift in your diet and the way your body processes things, and it's not going to
Oh,
make sense to expect dramatic results overnight without being fat adapted. So Alicia's
mm.
someone that can train in a fasted state. Me personally, I have tried it in every variation before. I've tried it in 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, 4 mil, even training after and before, all sorts of different meal frequencies. And I found for myself that it seems to be 1 meal, then I train. That one
Okay.
meal is easily digesting. So it'll usually be something like scrambled eggs, maybe a little bit of
Yes.
cheese, some salt. something quite high in water as well, but not too bloaty. So I'm a larger person. I probably weigh double what Alicia weighs. So overnight, I'm dropping a ton of water just through sweat. So
Mm.
for me, it doesn't always work out too well. And when I, if anyone's seen my Instagram, you'll see how much I'm sweating in my workouts. Me, me putting that exertion out and not eating beforehand, salt and sodium, it's not going to work. So you like Alicia, you do have to listen to your body, and you'll find your own sort of plan and way of doing things, and your diet and training will go hand in hand once you start listening to your body more. Um, so the thing I wanted to ask as well is about your weight loss. I wanted to get some numbers out. So where did you start, and how did you, not how did you get to where you are now, but what's been the biggest impact towards getting to your current like physique level?
So look, I've been to both ends of the spectrum. I've been pushing being almost underweight to morbidly obese. At my biggest, I was around 90 kilos, and at my smallest, I was around 48 kilos. As I said before, I'm 5'2".
Mm.
Um, a lot of people come to carnivore and experience amazing weight loss straight off the bat and having, getting everything they ever wanted. I've actually gone the other way with carnivore, and I've actually gained weight for the last, yeah, 3, 4 months, which is really, really normal. And, one of the things I think we always stress is do not look at carnivore as a weight loss protocol. Do not approach it from that angle, because that's not what it is. And if you do that, you're really going to set yourself up for some disaster. So it's healing. It's a healing protocol first and foremost. So I think for me, because I do have that history of that kind of binge, restrict, you know, energy restriction, fat restriction, my body was always going to grab onto some tools to do some healing. I mean, I've got a lot that I need to heal, particularly with the autoimmune and with the adenomyosis. So that's fairly typical and fairly normal for me. And what I can say though about the way that carnivore weight, I guess I'm going to call it, distributes on the body. Usually, if I'm going to put on a couple of kilos, they're going to go straight to my midsection. That hasn't happened for me at all for the first time in forever. I don't remember the last time I ever still, had my midsection, but I can now fill out a bra, which I couldn't do before. And I might need to buy some new jeans because I finally got a booty, basically, that no amount of squats really gave me. So
Mm.
I feel like I now have this really nice, softer, feminine physique. I mean, I've still got my muscle, which I love, but I've also got this curve. So for me now, I'm probably sitting around 52, 53 kilos. And again, weight isn't even a factor into this. And I would say to a lot of people as well, if you are focusing solely on the scale and thinking that that is the be all and end all and that measures your worth and everything about your journey, please put it away and don't look at it. There's so much more that you need to focus on, the mental health healing that you're getting, the internal healing, and getting rid of those addictions and those, things that have been maybe stopping you from having some of the best health you're ever going to experience.
Mm. Completely. I love what you said about it being a healing journey, and
Mm.
the people that are falling into this diet, I've said this probably a million times before, is they all have extremely negative health complications. They've got some problems that are autoimmune, aren't something that people can easily recover from. You just have to give it time, and
Yep.
we're all learning something new every day. And if you're approaching this from I'm going to lose a stone in a month sort of aspect, it's not gonna work out too well. You're to find that's a sweet spot where you're eating enough to satiate yourself and heal your body, but not depleting yourself. A lot of people
Absolutely.
will go downhill very fast if they do that. Um,
Yeah.
so what I know you said earlier you're eating a lot of like ground beef and butter and things like that. So what is your current meal plan at the moment? Or I know you eat to satiety sort of thing. You eat sensibly. So
Yeah.
what is each meal?
So typically, I mean, volume wise, I'm probably eating around at least a kilo of meat a day. And that to that, I'll usually add a couple of eggs. I'm absolutely obsessed with steamed egg pudding. I never thought I would ever say those words in my life, but oh my gosh, Steak and Butter Girl has the best recipe, and yeah, it is just amazing with a bit of brown butter on top. So yeah, it's typically around half a kilo each meal. It really depends on my hunger levels. I just listen and I will eat. And when I get to the point where my body's like, no, no more, not another bite,
Mm.
that's it. I walk away.
Yeah, that's a good attitude to have. I'm doing an experiment currently this week where I'm not tracking anything I'm eating.
Ah,
Obviously, I know like I'm having say 5 eggs for breakfast or 6 eggs, or whatever it is, and yeah, I'm gonna. I know 5 eggs is 5 eggs sort of thing. I'm not. I can't really eyeball that. They're always going to be about the same. But what it is I'm interested to see the end of this week. Maybe I might do a longer 2 week experiment and see what happens to my body weight because I'm someone that would chronically overeat. I
mm,
can put down a lot of food. I've obliterated most food challenges in my local area, and usually half the time everyone else has. So I'm trying to get away from this like volume eating feel. So that's why a lot of my meals are smaller, and people say, why do you eat so many meals? And they're not that big for someone your size. I'm like, yeah, but look at the cumulative amount of food I'm eating in a day. It's around
yeah,
triple what the average person on a carnivore diet is doing in a lot of cases. You got to look at it that way. And Alicia mentioned that she's eating a kilo of meat a day, and just think as well, she's very physically active. She trains. Well, she's a sedentary like myself, but when she trains, she's breaking down a lot of muscle tissue. She wants to rebuild it, so that's where the kilo of meat comes in. So people watching this, if you're 5'2" female, but don't jump straight into a kilo of meat a day. Your body does have to adapt
you
to
do not. Yeah,
that.
work up to it. And I would
Yeah.
really say as well, I think carnivore eating, especially, and whatever you choose to put on your plate for a day, it's very personal. Don't feel like you have to look at what's on the internet and be like, I must be eating X amount a day. Eat what makes you happy. First off, eat the meat that makes you happy. Don't force yourself to eat things that your body doesn't want. Just
Mm.
again, listen and feed it what it wants. And don't feel like you have to do what everybody else is doing. You do what works for you. You were saying, Jonathan, you split up and have multiple meals. There are people doing OMAD. You find your sweet spot and what works for you.
Mm. Completely, yeah. So if people wanted to start the carnivore diet, where would you suggest they start, or what resources would you listen to outside of myself?
I was going to say, well, composition consultant for one. Look, I think, I was thinking about this today, and you don't really meet many carnivores in the wild, as it were.
Mm.
Walking down the street, someone just walk up and be like, "Hey, I only eat meat. How are you?" A lot of our connection starts online, and I would say join forums. Have a look, read as many articles as you can from the most credible sources you can, and just take the time to really figure out what's going to work for you in your journey, and use your resources, like people on YouTube like yourself, and like the wonderful Bart K, who we actually connected through. And there's something really quite incredible, especially with carnivore. Finding your tribe, find your people, and find the people that you resonate with, because that's really going to enhance your journey.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I'm part of probably at least 10, 15 carnivore Facebook groups. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
You're probably about the same. I mean, what I'm finding is I'm liking people's posts, and they're doing the same post in every group. And I'm like, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna post all my videos in every group, and the same people actually go on to every single thing and like every single one of my videos because they want to promote the carnivore diet, and it is a tight knit community. Um, that's
Absolutely.
how I've come to meet Alicia, for example. I met you through Bart K. You're the other side of the world to me. Where I am now, it's about 8 a.m. For you, it's probably 8 p.m. or something.
Getting close to 7 p.m. Yeah.
7 p.m. So you live near enough the exact opposite side of the earth, and we've connected this and found our same pleasure from the diet and the benefits. It is universal. It's not, these sort of people, men just do better on this or women do better on this. Everyone does better on a carnivore diet. And once you let your body adapt and you listen to your body, like Alicia keeps saying throughout this interview, listen to your body. It becomes so much easier when you're eating a species appropriate diet. And basically, just before I wrap this up, I wanted to ask, are there any closing comments you have or advice you'd give to someone that are watching this video?
I think for anyone that's considering the carnivore diet, stop thinking and just start. And you know what? If you need to ease yourself in, step down the ladder from the standard Australian English diet, slowly weed out those foods that perhaps you didn't know are making you feel not so crash hot. Just do it. Don't be afraid. Make sure that you're reaching out in those forums and having that sense of connection along your journey so you feel supported, and you really truly have nothing to lose by trying ancestral eating. It's very powerful and life-changing.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for that. So if people wanted to find you, if you want to be found, how can they do that?
Well, I'm one of those rare creatures that doesn't do Instagram, but I do Facebook. So you'll probably see me in one of the, 10 to 15 forums that we're all in. I'm also a member of the Steak and Butter Gang. I can be contacted through there. If anyone wants to reach me further for any collaborations, they can email me at my name backwards, which is just macarthuralicia@gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan.